Okay. I think we're ready to go. We have Commissioner Webb joining us virtually. Work sessions are an opportunity for board members to discuss issues informally with staff and invited guests. The board encourages members of the public to attend work sessions and listen to the discussion, but there's generally no opportunity for public comment. Members of the public wishing to address the board are welcome to do so during the board's regularly scheduled meetings. So first item is discussion of the formal agenda. Not a whole lot on the formal agenda this evening. Do we have any questions or comments?
I think my only question is when is the budget available?
It'll be available on, trying to remember, Monica, what date the budget will be available? You could, yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So it'll be a week before the first public meeting about it.
Okay,
So,
cool.
Okay. Any other questions? Commissioner Webb?
Yeah, I guess I'm accustomed to getting a long range budget meeting schedule. Have we done that, and have I just not identified it well enough? Because the schedules are filling up really quickly.
I know we have a schedule for budget meetings. So, yeah, we can pull up we want to move on to the rolling agenda here. We have the work sessions and regular meetings and budget meetings on the agenda. So as we were talking about, April 23rd being the date that we would receive the budget, April 30th being our first budget meeting, 10:30 a.m. obviously, and then May 7th being our second budget meeting at 10:30, and May 14th being our third budget meeting scheduled for 4 o'clock.
Okay, could we have that in writing, please? Could we-
So it's on the working. She'll send it to you,
I don't.
Commissioner Webb. She'll send it to you.
Yeah.
This is the revolving
We have this agenda.
agenda, Commissioner.
Yeah, but see, I'm not getting copies of that. They are on paper in a meeting if I happen to be there. And I put them up and I print them differently because I can't turn it over when it's on my bulletin board. So it just, if we could be sent these in the mail or,
We
in-
email this to Commissioner Webb.
Yes, and we'll send a hard copy if that's.
Okay, well, we can send you both. Yeah, an email version and a hard copy version. Okay, any other questions?
I just need the email because I can print it the way I want to for a hard copy, so I don't have to be bothered with a.
Okay. So, and
Commissioner, Teresa, do we send out this calendar regularly to the board?
Mhm.
Does it go out electronically too?
No.
okay, we'll send it out electronically so everybody has.
Okay, that would be nice. Thank you.
And then we have, again, work sessions and our regular meetings, proclamations, consent calendars. Any questions on any of these items coming up?
No,
Okay. We'll move on then to the next item, which is Fair Board applicants, page 3. We got Kyle Sharpstein here,
come on up.
Fairgrounds Manager.
We need more friends at the table.
Hey,
Welcome.
yes, so we have a vacancy. Matt Billingham stepped down. He basically, where he was with his personal stuff, he just didn't have the time.
Yeah.
He said he really appreciates the direction the board's going and everything. It was nothing about the role, just more, he just didn't have the time himself. So we did a solicitation. We got 6 applicants. I talked with each of them to kind of tell them like, this is an interview, this is more just so you guys have a real better understanding. One of them, Scott Lindahl, after the conversation, he decided to withdraw his
Okay.
app, so Scott's not in the consideration anymore. I kind of gave him a rundown. We brought this to you guys tonight. Just knowing we have a tight schedule with the budget and everything to try to get someone appointed. Having some conversation, it sounds like maybe an interview would be ideal, but if we want to do that, we have to figure out what that schedule would look like. Or if we want to move forward and appoint them at your next meeting, we can do that also.
Okay. So we do need to have another member appointed before the budget, is that what I'm hearing?
Well,
No, it's just that there's not really gonna be an opportunity to do a deeper process before we get through the budget.
Oh,
work
yeah,
Yeah, I
session.
think
Correct.
the next time that in person you would be able to do interviews, and we'd have to move something around, which is fine, is on May 28th, which is an evening meeting, which would allow them to come in person. So that's the only thing, it's just gonna be a little bit further out.
Yeah, I think, I don't,
I would
I would-
but they had
appreciate the
six.
interview process because we interviewed the first 6 and I feel like for the 7th, I don't wanna deviate from a process that we've developed for the Fair Board, but also for the Planning Commission.
Yeah.
I think it's a good process to keep.
I would agree with Commissioner Banks, I think that was helpful, and I think May 28th, that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, will that cause you have 6 active members right now. Will that,
Technically, we have more board members for this coming fair now than we did. We had 5. And there's some great candidates in there also.
Yeah.
They're taking some time to look at them.
Yeah.
It'd be
well, and
it'd be a
I,
tough choice the way it is now.
yeah.
Yeah.
Recognize one name on here and I love her and I think she's an amazing human. I just would like to give the other folks the same equal opportunity to share why they would be wanting to participate on the Fair Board. And what do they have to bring to the table?
I would agree. And Matt Bellingham was a great
Yes,
board
he was.
member,
yeah.
and, he'll be missed. And I really appreciated his leadership and appreciated his contribution. And I understand life, a lot of things, that,
He's definitely got
That are very
been
important.
involved in a lot of things in the community.
yeah,
And I've told him the same thing and he's still planning to be heavily involved. with
great. I'm glad to hear that.
the fair, just not having to be committed to all the things we have going on with the board. We've got a lot of work that we're doing right now.
Okay, great. Well, thank
Thank
you,
you,
Kyle. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And plan on having interviews on May 28th.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Next, short-term rental application fee increase, page 16. And Gail Henriksen, Community Development Director. Welcome, Gail.
Thank you. Good to see you all. So this is an item that was continued from your January 8th meeting and staff has worked to put together an inventory or a survey of the different jurisdictions along the Oregon coastline, looking both at cities and at counties. And we put that information together to give you an idea of the cost structure associated with short-term rental permits throughout the state. You'll see that it doesn't really add up to an apples to apples comparison. Our fee is very straightforward. It's $550 for a 2-year permit. And there are no business license fees, there are no separate inspection fees or anything like that. So ours is pretty cut and dry. We also made some changes to how the program operates since we started talking about the issue of the fee increase. We've taken over permitting from assessment and taxation in the community development department. And so that's resulted in some personnel staffing cost reductions. Same thing, we've also had some staff changes in code compliance. And so we've reorganized how the STR complaint process is being tracked and monitored. And that's also resulting in some reductions. So we updated the estimated cost of what it is to actually implement the program. And it comes out to about $923 per permit. And so that's roughly a deficit of about $373. We would recommend to your board that we look at doing $1,000 fee for a 2-year permit and then monitor that every 2 years to make sure that it's still reflective of the actual cost, because over that 2-year period, you're gonna have potentially COLAs and staffing cost increases or changes to the complaint hotline. So we just want to make sure that we don't fall behind again, that we keep up with the actual costs. So really, based upon direction from your board this evening, staff will either continue to do additional research on the survey and look at other jurisdictions and other costs that other counties and cities are incurring, or we will bring back this request with the $1,000 permit fee increase to your April 23rd meeting. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Commissioner Wakua asked about, was it a sliding scale? In regards to not a sliding scale, that's a wrong terminology to use, but just in regards to, the fee structure. And-
Footage. or-
Yeah, usage and size of the short-term rental and capacity. Were those investigations part of this? I'm really struggling with words today. So it was part of that.
Yeah, so
and-
what we did is, we asked building codes, because they conduct the building inspections, to, figure out or to cost out, how much it costs per bedroom.
Mhm.
And their response was basically, it's not the cost per bedroom, it's the age of the house. So if you were gonna do a sliding scale, you would have to base it on the age of the property, because what we find is that the, properties that require more inspections that don't meet code the first time are the older ones, and those are the properties that have to replace windows or doors and things like that. So the newer the house, actually, the less time it takes to do an inspection.
Okay.
So I did meet, I don't remember the exact date, but Commissioner Wakula and I did meet to go over this information. He did not ask again about a sliding scale, but certainly we can do additional research and put together a proposal for that, and then we could bring that back to another work session for you.
So my philosophy is kind of a full meal deal, here is your permit fee to operate a short-term rental, and keep it as simple as possible because of potential staffing fluctuations that we might have as a county, but also that we're a rural county and we are not equipped, I think, in my opinion, to provide very specified levels of service that,
We would like to avoid the.
The
Yeah.
more complex you
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
this, it's gonna be more and more trouble. And I do like the fact that we keep it flat. I think $1,000 is reasonable. I appreciate the extra work that
Yeah.
went into this, to calculate and bring, delineated costs into it. Anyway.
and I like the reflecting back every 2 years to see if our costs have fluctuated, if they have dropped, if they've stayed the same, and just be responsive to those fluctuations or those
Yeah.
ebbs and flows. I appreciate that. But I am comfortable with
Yeah.
the staff recommendation at this point for the $1,000. I just, I think at the end of the day, Commissioner Wakua asked for additional time, and he's been awarded that. And when he returns from his illness, I feel like that, I can give him a call when he's feeling better and just see what he's thinking.
Commissioner Webb, did you have any comments?
Thank you. Yes, I was really pleased to see this staff report because it responded to everything that we asked about when we were doing this discussion. And I think that for those of us who have been watching STRs throughout the country, actually just in different places and what's going on and who's doing what, et cetera. I really appreciate the work that was done along the coast. I actually personally kind of went through because at the time one of the commissioners was a colleague of mine in Lincoln County, and so I think this is one of those things always with newish legislation where we have to to run with it for a while and see how it goes and be prepared to change and to learn from our experiences. And I thought this was a really nice job of responding to a lot of the comments that we made when we were talking about this issue before. And I really appreciate the information, et cetera. And I would be very happy with going with staff recommendations completely in this entire area.
Thank you, Commissioner Webb. Okay, that's good. I think we all in agreement on that. Yeah,
We'll bring it back on April 23rd.
great. Thank you, Gail. Appreciate your hard work and pass that along to
I
the
will.
team. Next, strategic planning work session number 2, page 25. And Amanda Rappencheck, our management and policy analyst. If I turn it over to you at this time?
Yeah,
Sure, yeah, go ahead.
Chair Phelan, members of the board, thank you for having me. This, Amanda Rapchuk, management policy analyst. This is, essentially just our next step in the annual planning process. And this is kind of an accumulation of what had been discussed at the first work session. And so each year when we're revisiting the priorities, essentially we're making sure that they're in line with the strategic plan that was adopted. And so the priorities go hand in hand with essentially the work plan, and those are the individual projects that carry out this work. So this wouldn't change the plan. This just creates adjustments to the priorities to make sure that we are implementing the plan. So I just kind of wanted to open it up in case you want to discuss any of these items. In blue is kind of identifying the changes that would be from what are the fiscal year priorities for 24-25. And for ones that might be kind of more of a broad phrase, when in the bullet point for that priority, we kind of included, or I've included what it's specific to.
Okay, yeah,
And your board's seen this quite a few times.
Yes.
Yes.
So, we just want to be able to get a final reaction from the board, so.
I mean,
yes,
I'm really comfortable with what I'm seeing. It's reflective of all of the conversations that we've had up until this point. I love seeing on target, ongoing efforts. Cause those are, you know, in previous years, high priorities. And so it's nice to see that I just continue to like to see what we've accomplished up until this point. And it's nice to see that they are where they're at and they're no longer on our high priority
I
list.
think we've tracked hundreds
Yeah,
and hundreds of projects on the.
I need to dig out the big, thick
Yeah.
one that you gave us earlier and just marinate over it when I'm having a bad day. Cause it really tells me how much we've accomplished. But yeah, no, I think that this is great.
yeah, any questions on any of the just changes or any of the things that were kind of clarified? I think some of these just were broadened a little bit. Economic development strategy, obviously, the incorporation of feasibility study is something that we're doing. The Westport sewer improvements, something that we're pursuing, something that we've lobbied our federal delegation for. Yeah,
I would say that maybe having listed, I know that we already have our eyes on the FEMA buy-off and its potential negative impacts for us, but probably just verbalizing it somewhere in the strategic plan that we are spending staffing hours on it, and probably not just a couple staffing hours considering the number of meetings some of us have been in. So, but maybe just listing it in there that is, I don't know if I would consider it, well, it's high priority economically, but it might be a medium priority staffing wise. I'm not sure how that would be, you know, probably a choice of our staff to make, but I think it should be listed in here.
I mean, would you think that's something you would incorporate into our natural hazards mitigation plan? Or I mean, I don't know if that's the place that we would put it. It's really kind of the floodplain issues there, dikes, levees, emergency preparedness.
Public, I
it's-
mean,
it's something that kind of
it's been
fits in there.
public infrastructure at some point here, so
Uh-huh.
it's kind of where should we place it? But I think it needs to be noted
Mhm.
that we're spending time on it.
We
Something
can,
that we're
we
tracking.
can finagle the right place.
Yeah, find a home for it. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's on Gail's desk if you need to find it.
Commissioner Webb, do you have any comments looking at this?
I'm afraid that as a long-term strategic planner, I have a lot of problems with the process that we've been going through and with the process that has resulted in the document. So I will I'll keep my comments to myself.
Okay, well, we have been going through a process and it's been a pretty lengthy one and we've had a lot of back and forth during our work sessions. And so I'm disappointed that people feel like it hasn't been a good process because I felt like it has been. And you know, we all have different priorities possibly, but I think the majority of this really does fit with what the majority of this commission feels are priorities. Should be focused.
What I will say, Chair, members of the board, is that this isn't the whole document either. I mean,
No.
so this is just what we've been working on for our priorities for this coming year. So there's the rest of the document is out there and it exists. And, you know, at some point, we're gonna go through the more rich iteration of that document, but honestly, we've been so busy, we haven't been able to kind of re-engage in that process where you do some of the fundamental work of saying, what are the conditions? What are the opportunities for the county to engage those conditions? What are the priorities? And so we will at some point revisit that. I just think with all the challenges that we're having financially and all the uncertainties that we're dealing with and kind of hyper uncertainties right now, I just don't know when we'll be getting to that. So.
Well, this is a busy time regardless. I mean, we have the Oregon legislature in session. We're trying to, you know, get behind certain bills that we support, and we're going to Washington DC and lobbying on behalf of congressionally directed spending requests. So there's just a lot going on. So I'm impressed that we've been able to continue, you know, updating and refining our priorities throughout the year with all of the chaos that's going on both the federal and state level.
And I'd just like to make note that over the last 4 years, we've gone over this in a very robust manner with sticky tabs and deep conversations. And I just feel really comfortable for where we are at now. And would agree with Chair on the fact that it is, you know, supportive of the majority of all of the board members here. And in many aspects, all of us support many aspects of this work, of this strategic plan. And so I think we should just give ourselves a little bit of grace. I think that we're in a good spot, and make note that legislative session has been robust this year for many of us. And yeah, I think we're in a good spot. I would like to reiterate that I would like our 5th commissioner to be able to be involved in a robust planning of the strategic plan at some point in time, but not obviously before budget season or anything else.
In the fall. So
Yeah,
we'll be doing
I
it
think
again.
the fall will be excellent time for a more robust deep dive. So thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Anything else, Amanda, that you'd like to add?
No, that was helpful feedback.
No, good job. Thank you very much for all your hard work.
I'm personally gonna celebrate the word you right here. Just gonna take a moment and personally celebrate that.
That's good.
Thank
Yeah.
So important.
Okay, well, we'll go ahead and move on to our legislative update. Amanda.
Well, it's a big day, so we had a success
Yes.
today, so.
I saw that in my email.
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm gonna do some, I like doing bad news first, cause I can get that. out.
Try to set you up. Look at that.
She's gonna
There's-
come in with a waffle.
There's been plenty of bad news.
Yeah.
So we'll just get the one out of the way first. So unfortunately, the TLT bill that we've been engaged on, the HB 3556 is effectively dead. It kept getting pushed back to the next work session, and it had been scheduled for Tuesday. And not due to lack of time in the work session, the committee had just decided that it was not gonna have a work session on this bill. We haven't gotten feedback yet
Yeah.
to clarify exactly why.
Hmm.
So hopefully we'll get more information. I do want to highlight that there are other bills related to the TLT in the Senate. So there's potential for other vehicles for this work to continue this session. So there is kind of some hopefulness there in continuing the conversation, and that there's been positive conversations with revenue committee chairs, both in the House and the Senate, about continuing this within the session. So hopefully this won't be the last of the movement regarding the TLT, but it's kind of like a wait and see in terms of what comes next.
So the ones that are in this, so where are they at? And what committee or are they in Ways and Means or are they?
There's a handful. I think there are at least two that Senator Weber is the chief sponsor, their study bills.
Study.
Yeah, and I think it's House of Revenue, so they're not tied to
I see.
the, yeah,
Okay,
tied to that deadline. So
okay.
yeah.
Well, yeah, if there's something that we can get behind, if there's a certain bill that will move the needle, yeah, we'll be happy to go and lobby for it and do what we need to. I don't know if there's gonna be that opportunity, but
I'm sad to hear that they are study bills and not move the needle bills as of yet. I get it, they want to study it before doing something about it, but sometimes just studying it ends up being,
Well, I think the hope, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think the hope is that one of those existing bills can then become the vehicle
okay,
to see a similar
amendment.
Similar amendment.
amendment that would do what the bill that just died would do. I think
right,
it'll come down to the same issue that it's really been fundamentally about the whole time, which is how big and how many.
Yeah.
Meaning how many counties or cities
are struggling.
get to access the flexibility and how many cities, how many cities and counties, and then how much of the actual flexibility.
Yeah.
And I think that's still gonna be what it comes down to. Even if we get another bill, there's a lot of interest about the big solution. I've always thought that it's a small solution that's actually
Yeah.
gonna get through the legislative process. And so we will see. We're still hopeful that we can find a way to at least get it introduced.
Yeah.
And we'll see if that happens. But this won't be the end of the conversation, even if it doesn't get done this session, because there's
Yeah.
been a lot of interest from throughout the entire state about this, so.
I was a little disappointed to maybe see so much interest because I agreed it was a small solution, like for a small area.
See, our
rural.
small solution became big,
It became real big, real fast,
and that's where it got a little heavy.
derailed a little bit.
And-
Yeah.
But, there could be a process to get it small
Mhm.
again, and, Deschutes County has been very involved with City of Bend. And so it could be that those recreational county definition could be
Yeah,
a way to have some of those Central Oregon impact counties go along with those coastal counties, and that would also include Wallowa and Baker. So it kind of touches on a larger, geographic base that's across the entire state.
Mhm.
Obviously, when we look at the most impacted counties per capita, it's the 4 coastal counties. But if you go to the recreational counties, you have those plus these 4 other counties. So it'll be interesting to see. The legislative process is always kind of a mystery how it ultimately ends. So we're not sure, but we've learned a lot through the process, so.
Yeah,
And I will say we've gotten great support from CFN.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think,
Yeah, certainly not from lack of trying.
yeah, and I think, Amanda, when she's ready to tell you the good news,
Saving it for last.
but when she's ready, I think just staff and CFM have done an amazing job on that HOA bill. So I just have to give kudos to everybody that's been involved with that.
well, one more thing on the TLT, I was really impressed with Representative Javity's testimony, at the hearing. I thought it was spot on, and he highlighted all of the reasons that we need flexibility, and Senator Weber's Chief of Staff, Katie Pritchard, testified as well, and there was a lot of good comments from, you know, a number of those that got up to speak. And of course, you had the Aqua and the Orla and, you know, the marketing or the destination marketing organizations. But I thought, for all in all, it was pretty balanced, and it was good to hear that, you know, this is an issue that's going to have to be addressed at some time. I mean,
Yeah.
I wish it would have been now, but glad that at least
Mhm.
got to be voiced a little bit more than it has in past years, and that's progress. Okay, one more bad news.
So one other like small bad news, and this is, I'm just highlighting this because this had to do with a letter of support that your board provided. This is for SB 460, that this one also won't be making the deadline, and that's the one that had to do with the pre-apprenticeship program. Not having or being exempt from the prevailing rate of wage.
That's the tongue point.
Yeah, but they had reached out to us for support, and similarly, it just didn't get a work session.
Let's do that.
These,
But the good news, oh, sorry.
Commissioner Webb, did you have something you'd like to say?
yes, thank you. This is an issue that I would like us to stay in touch with, because a lot of our challenges in terms of workforce development, especially in the more rural parts of the state, revolve around how you can find a way to pay people while they're training. We've actually been quite successful in Clatsop County by getting additional funding through now to allow our community colleges, for instance, to have a pot of money that will help people survive when they're going through their apprentice. Apprentice is a technical word with a definite definition, but to go through their training period. There are an awful lot of times when what somebody needs is, you know, a tank of gas, or they need a little help with rent, or and so anything that we can do that reinforces the issue of an adequate wage for people in training is very important. And unfortunately, in talking to a member of Representative Bonamici's staff, it appears that the Doge people are really going after programs like this. And so we've got to be very, very on the lookout for changes in federal regulations, because it took us a number of years to, especially in rural areas, for the federal authorities to understand that unlike folks who send their kids to Ivy League colleges, most of our kids who are in some kind of a training program need financial help. And so we need to be on top of that all the time, I think, that our training programs require and need this issue. So I think it's a big issue that we need to, it's one of the things that we will talk, we have a now meeting this week, and we're going to talk a little bit about what's going on with the chaos in DC for WIOA, because what we're hearing from CFM is that it's just chaos. It's just complete chaos, and that it's chaos, just like the rest of the federal government. So I hope this is something that we can keep our keep our eyes on in the future. It's kind of an ongoing philosophical need in training programs.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Webb.
Um,
And in clarification on the bill, I mean, isn't this to keep them, they wouldn't have to pay prevailing wage when somebody was in training? I mean, that's what this was
Yeah.
about, right?
Right.
That's-
It would be an exemption.
So
Exempt,
so
so that's
not a
why-
barrier,
Right,
because if you're
For
paying
apprentices.
prevailing wage, that might be a barrier. So we
Yeah.
wanted them, so the
This is
bill
for-
was to
this is
exempt
for
them. so it
employers,
wouldn't be-
Yeah, I can say there are a handful of bills that are still, that have not died and are not projected to die.
Mhm.
Regarding workforce development, I think a lot of the ones that I've seen are kind of specific to different sectors, like. I know there's one regarding building inspectors, there's a handful of them regarding public health, mental health workers, and just a handful of others, but I'll make sure to continue to highlight those, especially when there's an opportunity where your board can provide a letter of support.
And
Commissioner.
just to make note that, when children, adults, whomever, who is in, a program learning to be an electrician or a welder or so on and so forth, if they're associated with the community college, there's availability for them to get loans and grants in order to help sustain them throughout the process of learning. But most, journeymen get paid a living wage while they're apprenticing and while they're learning for however many number of years that they're in the program. For plumbing, I know they receive a living wage while they're under apprenticeship, and so do electricians. And then the welding programs and so on and so forth. So there are avenues, it's just, being creative with the avenues that are offered to our students, and having the teachers and the educators, educated in the paths for success for these kids. Because I know a number of them also fall under the Perkins Grant, which allows them funding that they can repay via presence within the workforce in the 5 years after receiving their certifications. And so it's just the creativity of our teachers. We're more dependent on that now.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I just wanted to make note that not everyone is without the ability of finding funding in order to go to school.
Well, that's why I mentioned the word that apprenticeship is a very technical word for federal funding. It's very specific and it doesn't apply, especially here locally, it doesn't apply to a lot of our workforce needs. And so this is, the whole workforce development system is very complex in this country. And especially if it's being looked after by people who probably have no experience in it, a lot of these issues are going to be easy to get rid of. But apprenticeships are actually, and I wish I knew that number. I think that apprenticeships are less than 50%. It's fewer than 50% of most, we would say, workforce training programs are apprenticeships. So in fact, they are, and they tend to be heavily supported also by unions, which is wonderful because it really gives them a great amount of advocacy where unions don't always step in apart from apprenticeship programs. So it's something actually that now that we're working very hard with right now, is figuring out exactly what these different what these different avenues are and how we can help them. One of my big learnings from this in the past few years has been that this extra money that has been given to community college has been a huge game changer. I mean, the last time I was involved with community colleges was about 20 years ago. And there was not at all the funding flexibility for community colleges then that there is now. in terms of funding for getting people into programs and sustaining them. So and it's very complicated. You know, who qualifies for which funding support is always very complicated. So it's something that we're working really closely with the community colleges about.
Well, thank you, Commissioner Webb, and we'll continue to track workforce related bills. And again, let's leave enough time for the good news. So
Please.
Amanda, let's hear the good news.
So the HOA fees bill that we've been working on, had its work session today, and we got unanimous consent for both the amendment, which was adopted, and passing it out of that committee. So it's very exciting, because it doesn't have a subsequent referral, so that means it goes directly to the House for a full chamber vote, which hopefully will be happening soon. And then from that point, should it pass, it'll go to the Senate and make its way through a committee and that kind of same process. So
This is a Clatsop County.
Mhm.
Yeah.
bill. I mean,
Yeah,
I think
That's
it's
good.
not a lot of counties can say that they've gotten this far with the bill, and so.
Hopefully they're paying attention, so TLT can be nice.
it's been exciting in terms of like just that reward of it passing today, and how much work has gone into it. I recently got some feedback from CFM that the Chair Marsh was really impressed with where the bill ended up with the -4 amendment, and that it was able to get unanimous consent from
That's great.
the
Yeah.
committee. So that's
Good.
really good when the chair of that committee is saying that that we did a good job. So
Great news.
Good.
Yeah,
Yay.
fantastic.
High fives.
win.
Win.
Another good win, HB 2467 as one of the bills that your board had provided a letter of support for, and it's regarding civil commitment. And so that one, the amendment that we had expressed support for, the -3, was adopted, and that one also passed as well. So it met the deadline. And then I just wanted to highlight the other two bills. We provided a draft board letter for your review for both of these, just the state bill or the state budget one, that's the HB 5006. And it highlights essentially the county's major priorities and advocating, especially for rural and coastal communities, and kind of the challenges that we're facing and making sure that that voice is heard in the creation of the state budget. And then the other one is regards to HB 2954, and that one has to do with funding for addiction prevention services. And so hopefully those letters will be able to be finalized, and we'll submit them soon.
Great.
Just a quick question. What do you, or have you seen our joint letters versus individual testimonies? Do the joint letters, are they having a positive impact, I guess, this session in movement of the bills?
When you say joint letters.
From our board versus having, say, the chair show up and give testimony. Have you seen, I mean, it's probably really hard to disseminate whether the value, I guess. But have these joint letters kind of had a value added to the conversation? Has it been able to give CFM more leverage or more
I would say
voice?
yes.
Okay.
I think that,
Good.
that you don't want to not be seen with an opinion on bills that you care about. So, and I think, because they do look to see who is testifying, and, you know, there are some bills that impact rural areas more than others, so they kind of look to see who are the counties that are weighing
showed up.
in.
Yeah.
Some are more coastal related, they do the same, so I think it does matter. I obviously think testifying matters. You know, with the TLT, there's a lot of testimony, I think, that makes a good case for some flexibility. But there are just some very challenging history with some of these bills, and you go back to TLT
Yeah.
in 2003.
Yeah.
At the time, it was termed the grand bargain, because they thought they would never have to deal with it again. And I think there's some resentment from some that they're having to talk about it.
Again,
And so, but how you deal with that is you just keep coming to the table and you keep showing up and you submit your letters and you just keep it up. And
because
so,
we've done more this year than we've done any other year, and so I was just wanting, I mean, our wins, our personal win is an amazing way to cite the value of having CFM and having our policy analyst. And so I think that it's just making sure that we share in public, you know, that having these things is new with our board in the last 4 years to do this, to have a CFM. But that there is value to it, and we are receiving more support because of it, I think, and more FaceTime, I guess. So,
And I would say, especially for bills where like, you know, there's a little tab on OLS where you can click testimony and it shows everybody that's submitted,
Mhm.
especially bills where there's not a lot of testimony submitted. For the county to have a letter that has all 5 signatures shows that your board wants to be a part of the conversation. And so if there are questions about some of the things that we've talked about in their letter, we're saying, you know, hey, we're happy to answer questions and that kind of thing. I know there's a lot of conversations that are happening, and there have been a work group specifically for the regarding surplus funding with tax foreclosed properties. And so your board or I can't remember if it was a board letter or a technical letter through staff, but there weren't a lot of testimonies submitted. Part of that is there's been a lot of behind the scenes conversations, but it still shows that the county wants to be a part of the table. And be a part of that conversation and representing rural and coastal communities in that way, so.
I'm glad to see the outcomes. The
Yeah.
outcomes have been excellent.
And I think the one thing we can all agree on is when the chair testifies in person, that's really valuable.
Thanks for going.
And that's one of the great things with having CFM is they're able to help us navigate. Is this a situation where it would be good for us to show up
Is it a big
in
deal?
person? Is it okay if we're virtual? Or would a letter be sufficient? So.
Yeah. I think that's really awesome. I do have 2 big questions when we're at the end of your presentation.
The only other thing I just had was, your board received a copy of the, transportation funding package
Yeah.
framework. And so Stafford's still kind of going through it, but the initial perception of it is, they're kind of skeptical that this framework is going to produce the kind of outcome that it's implying. So we'll kind of see. There is, one of the AOC steering committees, the Transportation Community and Development Steering Committee, has a meeting on Friday, I think. Yeah, and they're going to be going through kind of some comprehensive updates on the framework and the process moving forward. So I'll be listening into that meeting and I'll have a little bit more details in terms of what's happened since it's been introduced. And so I think in the Friday update, in that email that goes out to the board, we'll have more information.
Yeah, so the fire funding bill for ODF was in a work session, I think, this week. I was just wondering if you could do a little bit investigative to see the outcome of that work session. If it moves forward, it ends up being a cost savings for Clatsop County, only to about $100,000, but it's still a cost savings for us. So if, when you have a free moment, if you can investigate the outcomes of that fire funding. And then the fire maps conversation has been a pretty big conversation. I did get an email from a constituent that stated that her insurance has jumped because of where she is located here in Clatsop County, which I thought was strange that her insurance would have jumped because of it, because we are not in a high.
no,
Exactly,
in the county.
exactly. And so I was just curious of where that's at, because I know it's in the middle of an appeal, like the MAPS process is in
Yeah.
the middle of an appeal because of the outcomes of insuring the properties and insurance policies increasing. So just kind of a where are we at?
We can find out where that process is.
Yeah, that'd be good. It's not supposed to impact us.
No, and it shouldn't, because
Because we're not in
we're in
high-
medium and low
Yeah.
risk area. And so, what the map really is, it is for the high risk.
high-risk
area.
areas
So
and
that's why-
protecting their properties, and it's giving guidance to landowners in order to, you know, harden your property against risk. But I was just curious of where everything was at in those two processes, because the fire funding for ODF is extremely important. Obviously, they're amazing, responders.
I imagine that's in a revenue committee or something
Probably,
like that, so it'll
yeah.
definitely still be allowed.
I just didn't have time to get on it myself while teaching math. Because, you know, I didn't have anything to say. I wanted to pass, so.
Yeah, I'll definitely look that up and let you know about
Okay,
those.
thank you so much.
Mhm.
Commissioner Webb?
Thank you, Chair Quayla. One of the agonizing learnings that I've had to go through in Oregon since I've been here, having worked in both urban and rural areas, is this perpetual issue of how urban and rural constituencies seem to be so different in terms, especially in terms of transportation. And it has been inspiring to me to realize that a lot of the people in Clatsop County who know the most about transportation issues outside of our cities are not always a part of the process in Salem. And I think, I don't know, Don, maybe you could shed some light on this. I don't know whether it's because there isn't a good entity that represents, I mean, you know, we have most of our county staff have some kind of a statewide advocacy group that they can work with. But rural transportation issues are so diverse. You know, they're as diverse as the landscape is. And so I hope that we're getting the kind of input into this bill. Is when as soon as I opened it up, I thought, I hope so-and-so, Terry Hendricks. I hope somebody is you know, is showing this to all the smart people. You know, our survey guys are, I mean, there are so many people who often we don't ask for their expertise. And I think on the rural transportation issue, it's really necessary. I really do. And I think it also talks about the issues of coordinating with the cities, because what good does it do if, you know, you're talking about going to a city but you got to go Route 30 for 60 miles first. That's not in a city. So I just hope that there are people on our staff who are being asked to take a look at this. Because I think it's really, I think it's really, really important, because I've watched for 40 years the rural transportation districts or issues in this state just never get addressed. And especially because of our unique land area and geography, we have many, many unique issues that I would really hope that all these smart people who have been working here for lots of years and have a lot more insight into what's going on. And you know, for instance, I mean, I hope that somebody in the sheriff's department, for instance, I mean, they've just, you know, they do a fairly frequent strategic planning analysis. I'll bet there are people on Matt's staff who would be worth taking some time to take a look at this package and give us some input on, you know, some insights that just the folks who travel our roads have that we don't always give them a chance to speak up about.
Thank you, Commissioner Webb. We'll have some opportunity to unpack everything, and I know that'll be a topic at Northwest Act meeting tomorrow. Commissioner Banks?
The Highway 30 study bill, did it continue forward or did
It's
it
in
die?
a revenue committee. It's
Okay.
in one of the committees that doesn't have the deadline.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful.
And then the levy funding bill?
That one passed out of its
Wonderful.
first committee.
Okay.
Good. And I just want to make note, we had a lovely constituent share about the bump do you remember that testimony at, Ways and Means? It was actually a moment of laughter, but it brought weight because he testified in regards to the Highway 26 bump. It's been shaved down, but it almost immediately got, I mean, it was in the middle of being worked on after the last accident, but anyhow, I thought
Everybody knew.
everybody knew about the bump.
Right.
Yeah, the new resident, the bump.
Exactly right.
Okay, anything else? Gonna have a couple of minutes before our regular meeting. All right, we'll go ahead and adjourn the work session and reconvene at 6 o'clock.
My left eyelid is.
Okay, we ready to go? The Board of Commissioners, as the governing body of Clatsop County, all county service districts for which this body so acts, and as the Clatsop County Local Contract Review Board is now meeting in regular session. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, I want to welcome everybody here this evening. Clerk of the board, can we have the roll call, please? Here.
Here.
Commissioner Wakua is ill and cannot. And we had Commissioner Webb on the work session. Is she able to join us virtually for this regular meeting?
Yes, yes. I,
Okay. There you are. And Commissioner Thompson is attending a DLCD meeting and will not be able to be here. Thank you, Clerk of the Board. We reviewed the agenda during our work session. Do we have any questions, comments, or are we ready for a motion?
I move to approve. Board mission.
Sorry, if I just might, Chair, item number 9 is
Oh,
going to
yeah.
be removed
Yes.
from the agenda,
Yep.
and it will come back soon.
Okay.
I move to approve with the removal of item 9.
Do we have a second?
I second that.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the amended agenda with item 9 being removed this evening. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. First is a proclamation, Sexual Assault Awareness Action Month, and Laura Parker, our Domestic Violence Counsel of Clatsop County, is here. Welcome, Laura.
Thank you. April is, my role is, I work for the Clatsop County Juvenile Department, and I secondarily am the chair of the Domestic Violence Council for Clatsop County. I was asked to present the resolution in order for the Sexual Assault Awareness Month. Starts April 1st to April 30th. So I can start. In the matter of proclaiming April 1st through April 30th to be Sexual Assault Awareness Action Month, whereas we all have the right to safety in our daily lives, to have our boundaries respected and make choices about what happens to our bodies at home, school, the workplace, and in public places, and whereas sexual assault affects Oregonians every day, whether as a victim or a survivor, as a family member, friend, partner, neighbor, employer, or coworker of a survivor, and whereas Sexual Assault Awareness Month calls attention to the fact that sexual violence is widespread and impacts every person in the community, and whereas this year's theme, Together We Act, United We Change, highlights the power of working together to create safer, more respectful environments for all, and whereas sexual violence is preventable and all communities are strengthened by encouraging nonviolent interactions, relationships, and social norms, and whereas every individual and every community in Oregon have a role to play to help eliminate sexual violence by working together to promote social change. Now, therefore, be it ordered and resolved that Clatsop County Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim April 25th as Sexual Assault Awareness Month in Clatsop County, and calls upon community members and local agencies to speak out against sexual violence and educate one another on sexual violence prevention and support survivors. And I would like to add as a reminder that to believe survivors, and this month wear purple, wear teal in support of survivors and Sexual Assault Awareness Month. Sorry.
Thank you
Getting
very
the
much,
team.
Laura. And
Sorry.
thanks on behalf of the Domestic Violence Council of Clatsop County, thank you very much for presenting. Do we have any questions? Are we ready for a motion?
A comment and then a motion. I think that everybody in our communities deserves to be in a safe and supportive environment. And I am so grateful for the work that you do, in order to help ensure that our constituents, the people that live here, are cared for. Workplaces, schools, communities. I think it's pretty important message that we're sharing, especially when I think of my own children going through the schools and so on and so forth. So anyhow, I move to approve the resolution and order proclaiming April 2025 Sexual Assault Awareness Action Month and authorize the chair to read then sign the proclamation.
Do we have a second?
Second.
It's muted. There we go.
Second. Moved and seconded to approve the resolution and order proclaiming April 2025 Sexual Assault Awareness Action Month and authorize the chair to read, then sign the proclamation. All those in favor signify with an aye.
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 All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. Laura, you did a really good job covering this. I'll go ahead and do the proclamation in the matter of proclaiming April 1st, 2025 through April 30th, 2025 to be Sexual Assault Awareness Action Month. Whereas we all have a right to safety in our daily lives, to have our boundaries respected and make choices about what happens to our bodies at home, school, the workplace, and in public places. And whereas sexual assault affects Oregonians every day, whether as a victim or survivor, or as a family member, friend, partner, neighbor, employer, or coworker of a survivor. And whereas Sexual Assault Awareness Month calls attention to the fact that sexual violence is widespread and impacts every person in the community. And whereas this year's theme, Together We Act, United We Change, highlights the power of working together to create safer, more respectful environments for all. And whereas sexual violence is preventable and all communities are strengthened by encouraging healthy, nonviolent interactions, relationships, and social norms. And whereas every individual and every community in Oregon have a role to play to help eliminate sexual violence by working together to promote social change. Now, therefore, be it hereby resolved that the Clatsop County Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim April 2025 as Sexual Assault Awareness and Action Month in Clatsop County, and we call upon all community members and local agencies to speak out against sexual violence, educate one another on sexual violence prevention, and support survivors. Dated this 9th day of April 2025, the Clatsop County Board of Commissioners. Thank you very much, Laura.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Next item is business from the public. This is an opportunity for anyone to give a 2-minute presentation about any item on the agenda, except for public hearings, or any topic of county concern not on the agenda. Clerk of the board, are there any members of the public signed up to speak remotely?
Yes, we have 2.
All right. If you've signed up to testify, please wait until you're called on, give your name and address for the record, and you'll have 2 minutes to speak. And first,
We have Nancy Chase.
Nancy Chase.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes,
Hello?
you can.
Great, thank you. This is Nancy Chase, 79089 Tide Road in Cove Beach. And I would like to just draw your attention, if you haven't already seen it, an email you received yesterday from Scott Harn. And it came in around noon, a little bit after noon yesterday. And it discusses Ordinance 2419, which I believe had reference to STR, short-term rental caps, but also during those meetings highlighted that there was a 7-night minimum for visitors that had been adopted earlier. So the STR owners, at least the ones we know, were unaware of it. Staff appeared to only know to learn about it or relearn at the last minute. Certainly the opponents to short-term rentals didn't understand it, or you'd have had a lot of complaints coming in the last few years. So our request is to either have that the board have a workshop or a meeting to discuss whether people were really knowledgeable, including the commissioners, when this was adopted. And there was a lot of testimony given, but it was like 3 or 4 years ago. And I'd hate to have all that energy wasted. Maybe staff could summarize the pros and cons testified regarding the 7-night minimum. It's really bringing in the Arch Cape regulations to Cove Beach, or open up new hearings. But we'd really like to get your attention to that. And if I've got another minute, I certainly testified years ago about that. I think it's It's allowing only the wealthy to come and enjoy the beach. You either have to have a hotel or have a short-term rental for 7 nights, or the owner has to agree to do less time and then keep the remaining nights empty, which is a loss of income. I'm not sure how many people will do it. Is that my buzzer? Anyway,
Yeah, it is.
you know, families really can't afford it, can't afford that. And I would just like you to take that under consideration and hold a meeting regarding this issue. And read Scott's
thank you,
email.
Nancy.
It's very informative.
Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you.
Thank you. And yes, we have received the email from Mr. Harn. We've talked about having a work session, so we will be having a work session at a future meeting to discuss that. Thank you. Next,
Yes, John Meyer.
John Meyer. John?
I've unmuted all the odd numbers.
John, can you hear us? Okay,
They're all unmuted, so.
okay. Do we have anyone else that signed up to testify?
No, we do not.
Okay. Well, we'll go ahead and close the virtual testimony at this time. Do we have anyone that has signed up to speak in person this evening?
No, we do not.
Okay. We will close business from the public.
Mark,
Oh, there we go.
Can you-
Is that John?
yes, it is. I'm sorry about that. I just got a signal that said to press something and I could unmute this. So
Okay.
would you
We
be
can
able to hear
you.
me still? I'm sorry.
Yep, we can hear you. Go ahead and state your name and address for the record, and you'll have 2 minutes.
John Meyer, 1865 Clatsop Lane. My wife and I have owned a cottage for the last 7 years, and for our family and 4 children and grandchildren, and also we operated as a short-term rental. We've been very involved over the last several years in all of the workshops related to the many, many issues involving the short-term rentals. And the Scott Harm email addresses the shock that we all had to learn that somehow Arch Cape's rules had been mixed into the coastal residential zoning. It was a surprise to all of us, and we had all participated in those sessions. So it came as a surprise. We're encouraged, and I just heard you say that you're going to be taking this up, and we support everything that Nancy said, a concern about the elitist element that a lot of people can't afford 7-day rentals, and the off-season is a very quiet time, and the restriction is very prohibitive. And it's very difficult to implement. We have bookings that are a year in advance and didn't know about this particular code change. So we would certainly encourage you to participate, get input from the public on it, and take a second look at this. I'm also concerned about the issue of not enforcing a regulation that's been on the books for 3 or 4 years now. So it's something that really I think is important and significant and requires your attention. So thank you very much. We look forward to discussing it further with you.
Okay, yeah, thank you, John. Yeah, and as we stated, we will have a work session upcoming to discuss this. Any other?
No, there's not.
Okay, we'll go ahead and close business from the public at this time, move on to the consent calendar.
I move to approve the consent calendar.
Do we have anything on the consent calendar?
Yeah.
We have the
There's
culvert
two things.
easement and the set hearing date for the vacation portion of unbuilt F Street.
Mhm.
We have a second?
I second.
Moved and seconded to approve the consent calendar as presented. All those in favor signify with an aye.
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 All those opposed? Okay, motion carried. Commissioner reports, we'll start with Commissioner Webb. Commissioner Webb, do you have a report?
I don't.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Webb. Commissioner Banks?
So, busy couple weeks. Was able to participate, with testimony with the Ways and Means Committee here on their visit to Astoria. Chair was able to join me. I'll let him share his adventures, but I was able to testify on, the importance of supporting mental health programs and response in our community, because we have some varied issues and concerns just in regards to needing continual funding for our mental health and drug programs that we currently provide. And so having a continuation of funding for those programs is imperative for the success for those programs to continue. And then also testified to the concerns regarding the shortages in funding that we will be facing and are beginning to face over the next years, just in regards to our environmental commitment that we made for the state.
Hey, John.
Clatsop County is.
Glad you got in.
We have, can we mute everybody that's online?
Just that Clatsop County is shouldering the burden of these commitments for the state, and in the future, we will be looking for assistance in how to fund our losses so that we can continue forward doing the great things that we've been cited even by the governor's office to being able to accomplish. And from Ways and Means, wasn't able to enjoy dinner with a few of those senators and legislators and just have some open discussions and interesting conversations with many of them. It was nice to be able to bring home how different we are considered, we are not a large municipal county. We are a rural county, and our kids face certain struggles, and, so do our constituents, and just in regards to medical care and services, educationally, and so on and so forth. So those were good conversations. It was wonderful to see how receptive they were to having those conversations. It was a first for me, to have that level of interest in what is happening in our community. From Ways and Means, I had a Northwest Senior and Disability Services meeting. One of the final questions that was asked of them was, are you facing any deficits in just regards to federal funding? Are there any concerns in service levels for folks that receive services from Northwest Senior and Disability? And so far, so good. And for me, hearing that news was reassuring, that they are operating at levels prior to our new federal funding environment that we have. And so that was just reassuring. And I asked about, what is the forecast? And they don't seem to be seeing the same levels of concerns of other agencies right now. So that was reassuring to hear. We will be receiving a child care update. I saw it on our rolling calendar. That was discussed at our last child care meeting, so I'm excited to have you guys witness the same update, to see it in action and to share that. And just moving into this week, I honestly don't remember what was on my calendar this week. So if I remember, I will share. But yeah, so far so good. Just continuing to plod along and try to do personal testimony at legislature whenever I feel like that it would support Clatsop County. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Banks. You didn't mention that we went to Washington DC.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I did want to share something, just in regards to that.
Oh,
Sorry. We did go to Washington DC and it was amazing. I will let, Chair share about our adventures there with those, with our national delegates. But, one interesting item that I wanted us to kind of contemplate, and it was brought forth by one of our CFM, folks, is that the eastern side of Oregon has flexibility in regards to offerings in land use so that they can compete with Boise. And so there's a small contingent of the east side of the state that is allowed flexibility in their land use laws. And that flexibility is for communities like Vail and Burns, Ontario, but that they are in some sort of, I call it a co-op, I'm not sure what, a coalition, something or other, but they have been given legislative flexibility in their land use laws to help them be competitive. And so I was just thinking with our constrictions on our industrial lands, or lack of availability, and with the FEMA BIOP, who knows what direction that's gonna go, somehow creating a similar situation so that Clatsop County can be competitive. Granted, it wouldn't be, you know, us competing with Boise, Idaho, but it would be us just being able to be economically competitive. And so maybe investigating that. But that was a fun conversation. That was something unique that I had learned on this trip outside of our lobbying that we did. So I will pass it on to you.
well, I can understand why you'd forget that we went to Washington DC. It feels like it was ages ago.
Yes.
But it was a good trip, and we did meet with, Senator Merkley, spent a good deal of time with us.
Mhm.
And, we outlined our congressionally directed spending asks or community-initiated projects asks for the Westport Sewer and for, 911, like emergency communications infrastructure. There's not a lot that they can really promise right now. It's just a very chaotic environment, and, in meeting with Senator Wyden and Representative Bonamici's office as well, I think that, we had a 1.2 or 1.1 million that was in, budgeted for emergency operations and infrastructure, and I think the best bet is that could get put back in, hopefully. But anything additional, we just can't really get a read on that right now. So I think it's good for us to get in front of our representatives, our federal delegation, and to stress the needs that we have, certainly the economic position that we're in. And it was interesting to meet with Representative Bentz. You mentioned about Eastern Oregon.
Mhm.
Representative Bentz we met with because he wrote a very good letter to FEMA in regards to the BIOP. And I think it was good to just kind of connect with him and get his thoughts on what he saw, the future of what did he envision happening. And I mean, he didn't have a great there's no beat on that either, but it was interesting to get his perspective on the FEMA BIOP. And his letter was one that I felt was strongly worded and told them to kind of give communities a chance here. The way that it was being implemented was not doable for our community and other communities around the country. So it was a good meeting. And then the Ways and Means, I thought was, what I loved hearing was a lot of local projects, local interests, local issues. There wasn't a big outpouring from other communities coming here and weighing in on whatever special interest, topic there was. I mean, these were really good comments from the things that our community needs, and they were very receptive and listened. And this was an opportunity that not many communities get.
Mhm.
The roadshow doesn't go very many places.
Mm-mm.
So that was an awesome experience to be able to testify in front of them and to have the community really show up in force, and very civil and great comments throughout. Had a NOAA meeting, last Thursday. NOAA's looking at different bank, trying to get a better interest rate, and they also are trying to deal with Clatsop Shores. There's been many different strategies about selling off one of those buildings. So I think there's still some debate on what the next steps will be, but that continues to be an item of discussion. And then tomorrow is the COLPAC meeting, and I'll be able to share a little bit about our TLT, what the status of that is, because people wanted to hear about our TLT request, and also wanted to hear about warrant and dike and levies. And then, of course, I'll give an update on the hospital, which unfortunately, we did not get we had our BRIC funding canceled, which is a huge blow to our project. We're still trying to come to grips with what it really will mean for the project and as a whole. We're, of course, going forward with building a hospital, and we want to make a resilient hospital because we have a commitment to the community. But it certainly is a big change in what we were planning, and a very unfortunate one, because it was a good project. And I want to thank our emergency management director, Justin Gibbs, who was on the call every step of the way while we've been trying to unravel exactly what the FEMA press release meant and what the memo to the state of Oregon meant and what it meant for our project, which of course was not the fiscal year 2024, it was fiscal year 2022. And so there were some nuances there about what was obligated versus what was awarded. And in the end, the bulk of the project will not be awarded. So we will not receive that funding. But we will continue to fundraise, and we will continue to ask the state of Oregon for assistance, because it meets the resiliency goals of the state of Oregon, and I think it's a fantastic project, and it will be a model for others. But that's all I have. I'll go ahead and turn it over to our county manager.
Chair Craylor, members of the board, obviously a lot of time is going to the legislature, but it's also going into the budget. So I just want to give just a quick update on the budget, because you'll be seeing the document soon, and I never want there to be surprises. But just at a very high level, we have put together a budget where, based on the forecast, the current year revenues mean the revenues and the expenditures next year will be equal, which means we do not anticipate using any of the fund balance. We expect to have a little surplus. The reason for that is there's so much uncertainty still, and we will be at about 38% fund balance. So the board goal is 30, the minimum's 20, so we'll be well above that. But last year when I wrote the budget message, I thought there was a lot of uncertainty with inflation, with transient lodging tax, the impacts of tourism on our services, timber revenues, the cost of providing medical care and prescriptions to the adults in custody. You just went through all those different cost centers, and they were all troubling. Now you add on the uncertainties with state and federal funding, and being more conservative, I think, will be a path that we take over the next several years. It won't be a quick fix. I think there was an article that cited, I think it was 21 out of 36 counties in Oregon have deficits, which we don't this year. But as a result, we have had to reduce staff. And so you'll see a reduction in staff, mostly through attrition, some from one-time spending like ARPA that won't be available moving forward, and then some because we are making some reorganization moves, consolidating departments. So I think we're doing all the right things, and kudos to all the staff, all the directors, supervisors who have been helping us put together this budget that will be foundational as we move forward. So a lot of good work has come into that document. The other I want to mention is Tongue Point, having a lot of meetings about the enterprise zone itself. And so I think we're getting close to having an agreement between HIAC and WCT, but that is ongoing. So if you hear about it, it's still part of a discussion. And we are working through some of the dredging issues also. And so HIAC and I have spoken about that a number of times. And then we will be needing to extend the enterprise zone by June 30th. And so there is a process that we're going through right now to identify what the boundaries, whether the boundaries of the enterprise zone need to be modified to comply with state statute. So we are going through that process now, but I just want to give the board a heads up that between now and June 30th, we'll be coming back to your board to probably modify the boundaries a little bit and to have your board extend it for another 10 years. So, and that's all I have.
Yeah, thank you, County Manager, and appreciate all your work. I mean, I know the tongue point was, there's a lot of pieces to that, and so I really appreciate all your efforts. And again, thanks to Amanda for tracking all of the activity in Salem, because there's so many moving pieces with that it's impossible for us to kind of know what's going on. And thank goodness that Amanda is able to rein everything in and present it to us in a fashion that we can actually digest it. But no, thank you, Amanda. We don't have any items on our agenda now since we removed our only item.
I honestly, can I just make a note? I wish that we could celebrate more that we have been conservative and we are okay. I'm just afraid if we celebrate it too much, then everybody's going to be like, Clatsop County's fine, without recognizing all of the muscle movements that occurred in order to get us there, and that would be our staff. So I don't want to be too loud about that celebration, but on the same hand, I'm like, nanner, we're doing okay.
Well, I mean, I think if I could, Chair, I think it's a testament to the complex public financing environment. It's always been complex, but it's becoming increasingly complex and challenging. And providing those services that a community needs on a priority basis is just getting tougher. That's why there's 21 counties. But what it also takes is having a runway, which I call the reserve, and then being willing to understand all the intricacies of a budget so you know which board to pull at different times. And there is a lot that goes into making this budget work. And we're really fortunate to have staff who understand the intricacies of it. We have early warning systems, we forecast. So we have all the fundamentals to be able to manage through this, but it's not going to be without, sleepless nights for some of us and some tough decisions. But at the end of the day, providing stability through the budget is a benefit to every resident who has services that they can count on, that they are reliable and quality, and it's a gift for our staff to know that they're going to be able to continue to do the good work that they're doing. And so we're going to keep doing it. It's so important for us to be that organization and not one that's fighting deficits all the time. So
to be the other side of the coin. I'm going to be very frank. I would be no.
And again, we've said it before, but kudos to you, County Manager. Kudos to our Assistant County Manager, Monica Steele, who's guided us through the budget process year after year. And of course, Andrew Sullivan, our Finance Director as well. I mean, this is, we're in this position because of your hard work, because we've been conservative, and that's a real luxury in a time like this when there is so much chaos and uncertainty. But yeah, thanks again for all your efforts, and you're looking forward to another great budget season. Any other comments, questions? Anything for the good of the order? All right, we are adjourned.